years. She is a clinical nurse specialist and a certified oncology nurse. Dr. Adeola's passions include patient safety, patient comfort, and nurse comfort. Her studies have been focused on patient safety and comfort, student nurse comfort with patient care, registered nurse comfort and mood, and nurse job retention. A fellow of the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program, she works with an international nursing school on research curricula. She is also a fellow of the Midwest Nursing Research Society Leadership Academy. Dr. Adeola has presented her research work in multiple formats, including many poster presentations nationally and internationally. At Purdue University, she teaches research and evidence-based practice. So without further ado, our two presenters will start their presentation, and then we'll have a Q&A
Yeah, that's the thing. Now I have the next phase because I have the main ideas, the main blocks of my how to say my.
Hello, thank you for inviting us to speak to you today. I'm Dr. Nicole Adams, and today we're going to give you some basic information on how to do a successful poster presentation.
And also you can talk about whether it's feasible in your country,
All right, let me share my screen.
For the first point, what is it
and
about again?
How other countries are doing. Like we have, whenever we check for online education, US is first, and some kind of, weirdly, India is second.
Quick note, Carly,
a
yes,
country,
got the right screen.
some 10 years back was, developing countries. And how now they are the second, leading, the world.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to our poster presentation information session. And so, just yes, Dr. Adam, yeah, that's good.
And they become the world second. Those are the examples.
So Dr. Adam is going to get us
But
started
first
on our slides, and I will cover the next two slides, right, Dr. Adam?
You take these two, actually. I just
Right. Okay. All right. So just a quick start for us today. How do we present? How do we present a poster presentation? We have to start first, right? So what is the reason for having a poster presentation? Well, it is a very quick explanation of your work. Your work could be a research project. It could be an evidence-based practice project. It could be, any project really, but I assume that most of you here today, you are either working on some kind of evidence-based practice project or a research project. So it's a quick way to explain to an audience what your work is about. Of course, it's quicker to read than a paper. Who wants to read, 10 pages of research work or evidence-based practice work in a few minutes? So it's a quick way to get across to an audience what your work is about. It does require less time to create, and we can walk you through some of that process today. Obviously, writing a paper takes longer, but to get your information, your work across in terms of dissemination to an audience, it's a very, very easier way to do that. So it allows for dissemination of your work at conferences before you actually publish your work, which usually takes longer to do. So it is also an opportunity for networking. So when your paper, your abstract is accepted for presentation, you get to network. You have an opportunity to network with people who attend the conference. And then you can discuss with your peers about your work and also opportunity for future collaboration. So how do we get started? Well, I always tell students to not procrastinate. Many times we researchers or evidence-based practice people in hospitals or hospital practice institutions partnerships, we procrastinate. We know that 6 months from now we want to attend a conference, right? We want to submit an abstract. Okay, so the minute you decide that you want to submit an abstract is when you really want to start working on your poster. Because it allows you to plenty of time to really create a document that is very, very exceptional. And you really want your poster to be exceptional. You don't want to have a mediocre poster work. So don't delay, start early. The earlier you start, the better for you, because you have many opportunities to have different iterations of that poster work. And what do you want to share? Okay, you need to come up with what is it about what I've done that I want to share with somebody else, that I want to share with colleagues. So come up with that within yourself. What is it that you want to share? And don't forget that the poster is a summary of your work. It is not a paper. And you want to put in that poster, what is it that you really find the most meaningful about your work? If you already have a manuscript that you're working on, great, because this will be a summary of your manuscript. It's a brief version. It's just a short version of your manuscript. So go through that manuscript and then begin to look at the key things in that manuscript that should be on the poster. So what are those pertinent things from each section of your manuscript? Just few words, and we're going to share some examples with you today. Few words. You do not want to crowd your manuscript, your poster at all. Just few words. And templates, there are all kinds of templates out there that you can choose from. Start with one. Just pick one. Don't worry about having a perfect template at the beginning, because you can change it. You can change your templates later on. Pick one and start putting your content on that template. It's like throwing stones. Start throwing your content there. The keywords that you want to share, start putting them on the template. And then you have plenty of time to fix your text. So what can you put on those slides? We're going to have Dr. Adams take care of that in the next slide.
Okay, so generally the contents of a poster have these usual headings. So you'll have your introduction or your background section. Then you'll have the objectives of your study, the design or the methods you used in your study, your data analysis. So what were the statistics that you used? How did you analyze your data? If it's a qualitative study, what methods did you use for your analysis? The findings, so those are the highlighted statistics or your themes from your qualitative study. And then your conclusions, when you take those findings and you put them all together, what did you end up with at the end? And your references. And I say these are the usual headings because there are no rules about this, and you can generally use what headings make sense for the work that you've done. So we have some traditional poster layouts. Often posters are set up in a 3-panel format, where you start at the left, you read top to bottom, and there's a left, center, and right panel. However, there's no rule saying that you have to do your poster in that way, and you can use a different order. You just want to make sure that it makes sense and that people's eye follows from one section to another, and you're not jumping back and forth to make sense of what they're reading. You can add additional background graphics to make it more visually appealing, and still keep to the 3-panel format. Or you can get more creative with the layout. Just make sure that, like I said, your eye follows the flow in a logical order. You don't want your conclusions coming before your background, and so that people don't understand what they're referring to. And lastly, especially if you're affiliated with the university, you want to use the templates provided by your university or your funder if you have funding obligations, and always acknowledge your university and your funders on your poster. So I often tell students, you can take anything you want off this poster except our Purdue Nursing logo. That needs to stay on there to identify your affiliation with the school.
That's doable. Yeah, and it's very
so this is a very boring, plain, standard poster. template that we have at Purdue. You can see we have our Purdue University School of Nursing logo here and at the bottom. And then this is our colors of black and gold. This one, we have an introduction. This is an academic service partnership poster. So we have what the partnership is. Again, methods, results, preceptor preparation, because that was important for this introduction, and then the conclusion. Okay. At the top, title of research, names of contributors or authors.
Ryan, maybe you can talk about.
This is another template that our university uses. Again, this is a slight variation on the 3 template. Again, here's our logo up here. Our title does not go all the way across the top, and you can see this section cuts across 2 columns. Our columns here are different sizes. That also can help with varying interest and having that visual interest if you don't have all 3 columns or all 3 sections the same way. So that's another strategy to use. And you do see that these are divided by lines as in addition to white space.
15 minutes.
This is another way to go about the 3-panel with using circles and your ovals and varying the color. So this is another template we have at Purdue with the gold background, objectives, methods, analysis, findings, conclusion, pretty much those usual headings that you have in a poster. This one also has the references as a QR code, and this is something that's becoming more popular and a lot of people are doing. We usually tell our students you need to put for their academic posters they turn in to put your references in teeny tiny little letters because we don't want to waste space. And as faculty, when we're grading a poster, we can always zoom in on that PowerPoint and read your references. But people can't necessarily do that when they're seeing a poster. And this is an easy way to disseminate your references with on an electronic format. So that's another new thing that we've seen more recently. But this one has a little more visual interest. There's a lot of white space in this, but you have to be very cautious about your text falling outside of the circles and running into each other and how much text you put on this kind of poster.
Of the stakeholders. And finally, the strategies which we can utilize.
Okay.
Dr. Adiola?
Yes. So, how do you make your poster be interesting to your audience? These are just some basic design ideas to improve the readability of your poster, because it is so important that your poster is not distracting to the readers and it doesn't want them to run away either. So you want to make your poster be interesting but yet professional. So the title, make sure that your title, first of all, when you're deciding on the title, make it interesting. Make it be professional, interesting, eye-catching. It should catch the interest of the audience, and then try to put it in the center of the poster, center it. And then you also want to have the names of all the participants in the project beneath your title. I'm going to give you an example. Dr. Adam has a good example for you today. And of course, the names should be in smaller size, font size than the title of your project.
And what challenges?
And then keep it organized. Keep your poster organized. Like Dr. Adam said, you want to make sure that the flow is from the left to the right, top to bottom, and it's logical. Usually we have the introduction to the left, upper left, and the conclusion is to the bottom of the right page of the poster. That is the common approach to writing a poster and organizing the content. And everything else tends to fall in between, but again, in logical order. So what about the size of the text? You want to make sure that it is not too tiny. Some of us are getting old and it's getting harder to read. And so it's better if your text size is not less than 24. Don't crowd your poster. Don't feel like you have to reduce the size of the text so that you can add more information. Okay, so keep it at 24 or above for the majority of the text that you have to write. So often, occasionally, you may have to go to like 20, but that should be for just fewer text. But most of your text should be at 24 or above.
Okay, good.
Graphs, pictures, and tables, those are better ways of explaining or sharing your information. So use a lot of graphs if you can, pictures or tables. They tend to be helpful in sharing the contents that you want to share with the audience. And I always tell my students to be parsimonious, and I like to use that word. One, because it says a lot, also because it's a big word for them. But I heard this when I was a PhD student. My chair always told me to be parsimonious. And so I've hung on to that word ever since then. Use less text and don't crowd your posters. Don't make your posters look busy. I'm sure many of you have seen posters. What would be an idea of font to use for the text?
Regulatory bodies and the commission.
Okay, so we have a good question that we can address later on. I'm sure you've seen posters that appear very busy, very busy. You're walking past the poster, you're like, where do I start from here? So don't be one of those poster presenters whose posters are just so busy and wordy.
They like their
and this is an example of a busy section of a poster. So you can see above,
they are not ready.
Before this last bullet point, you can see how easy it is to read, because it's just like a snippet, just straight to the point and brief, all those bullet points. But then let's look at the last bullet point here. Look at how wordy it is. Okay, it says consider bullet points, tables, and graphs instead of sentences. Okay, that's easy to get to, right? But then let's now look at the part that says large blocks to the end of that page that says writing. Look at how wordy it is. This is just an example of what you don't want to do. Okay, so keep it to just bullet points. So let me just read what we're talking about on that last sub-bullet point. It says large blocks of text are difficult to read. Viewers want to get the idea of your poster as they stroll by. Okay, I'm just walking past. If I just see a few words, I know what you're talking about. So this one you have to stop and read, okay, before you get what's in there. And it says you want to be able to have them understand the basics in less than a minute and then spur a conversation with you. If there are blocks of text like we just have in this last section with very small print and complex ideas, your viewer will lose interest and move on. This is not a place to reprint the paper you're writing. So this is a good example of what you don't want to do. You don't want to write in sentences, just bullet points. This is what I'm talking about. Present your information in charts and graphs. Use colors, make it presentable and easy to read. And graphs says a lot. You can get a whole lot of information in a chart or graph. Next one. Another one is a table. Look at, we have a lot of information on this table, yet it's not crowded. It's so easy to read. All right, thank you.
So I'm gonna, before I move on to this slide, I'm just gonna pull over a poster, the poster I presented at MNRS last year. And you can see some of these ideas. So on the small screen, it looks smaller than it actually is. But you'll notice that everything is in bullet points. We have some diagrams. I was presenting information about a study we did on a massive open online course that we launched. And so these are actual pictures from within the video course that we launched. I did use the QR code for my references.
We can't see your poster.
Oh, you can't see my poster?
No,
You have to
just the
stop sharing.
presentation.
Oh boy, I'm
Stop
sorry.
sharing.
Hang on one
Stop
second.
sharing and reshare. Yes. Okay.
I'm so sorry. I thought I could just move it onto the share screen.
That's okay.
Thank you for letting me know. Okay. Can we see it now?
I have
Here, now we can see it, right?
That's good.
Okay, so we presented this research we did on this massive open online course we created that had videos embedded, and we had stills from the videos that were embedded showing those pieces. You can see our demographics were presented in a table. Our results are in a table, so you can easily see where we saw change without reading it. Everything is bullet pointed into small little pieces of information, so you can get the background really quickly. You can get our intervention, our results, and our conclusion is 3 bullets. So there's still a lot of white space, even though there is a lot of text on here. There's a lot of information shared, but we do have this table is a different color because it is kind of text heavy. But in order to explain, and if somebody had more questions about what was really in the module, we wanted to have that available. But we highlighted it out with a different color. And you can see the names, our names are fairly small here, but the title's big. So if somebody wants to know something about student nurses and the stigma and substance use, they right away can zone in on those words that are in the title. And again, I did show you, I did use the QR code for my references down here. This links to a Qualtrics survey that has our list of references. And then we have, links to some of another QR code, a link to our MOOCs that we presented. So that's just an example of a poster we did and the use of graphics and tables to present information in a concise way. All right, so let me go back now to our presentation.
Suggestions on how to implement the system.
All right, so we're back to our slideshow. So how do you actually create it? So posters, I believe, are most easily created in Microsoft Office PowerPoint or in Google Slides. Both of those work really well. Your university should have a template for posters for you to use, or your college or school. Like I was showing earlier, and like you can see on our slides, we have the School of Nursing templates. Under the Design tab on your PowerPoint, you can select the slide size dropdown and create a custom size and match the dimensions of your proposed poster. And I'm going to show you that on a blank here in just a minute. But for example, if you have a 4x6 poster, so 4 feet tall, 6 feet long, you want to make sure the ratio between the width and the height is 2 to 3, or height and width is 2 to 3. So under the, you can use the Insert tab to add text boxes to create easily movable blocks of text, so you can format and shape and move things around. You can use the Shape Format tab that appears when you click on the text box to change the background color and add a border. And when you're satisfied, save it as a PDF file. And this will ensure that your fonts and colors are correct.
I will take the first one.
And if you send a PowerPoint to the printer, there is a chance that things will shift when they open it in their PowerPoint on their computer, and it will not come out true to the trueness of how you actually designed it. So to explain some of this, I'm going to do this stop share thing again here. And I'm going to show you a couple other things I have pulled up. So one is, we're going to go back to that boring Purdue template I showed you earlier in the PowerPoint and show you where some of these things are. So in PowerPoint, under the Design tab up here in the corner, we have the slide size. And you can see this is set to a custom size of 36 inches wide by 24 inches high. And this is a ratio, so as long as this ratio of width 3, height 2 is what you're looking for, you're okay here. With these templates, I've noticed if I go to change these on the template, it messes everything up. So if you need a different size ratio, my suggestion would be to open a brand new slide and start with a new slide, a blank presentation, and then on here you want to make this just a blank layout, and then go over to your design and change your slide size to whatever custom size you want. So let's say instead of that size. I want to do 4 by 5. So 4 feet high, 5 feet long. So 5 feet, I'm going to do 25 times 4. And then here I'm going to do 16. And that will give me my correct ratio. And I'm going to maximize the fit. And this gives me my correct ratio of 4 feet high to 5 feet wide. And then I can add things. So when you go to insert, your insert tab, and this is all very similar on Google Slides as well, slightly different location of things, but text boxes, if you build your text in text boxes, you can add bullet points even within the text box, and you can write your information.
Were you trying to do something different because we are not seeing it?
Yeah,
You're not seeing it.
Share it again.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me know. Okay, now you can see where I am.
Yes.
On the blank screen. So yeah, so I went through design and I changed my custom to 20 by 16. That gives me my ratio I want. And then this is a text box. And what that means is I can move my text around the poster like this. And I can change the size of it. And I can even go in and change the size of the font on the whole box all at one time. I can add bullets to these. I can change the background color. So if I'm in my shape format tab here, I can fill the shape background. And so this makes it really easy when you're designing your poster to move things around. If you type directly into the PowerPoint, it will not allow you to do that. So I recommend text boxes for doing that and making it easy to move things around. So in this case, if I needed to add my template pieces that I want to keep, like my Fuji logo, I would copy and paste them from my other slideshow into here and from my template onto here so that I have them.
Anytime during next Monday.
All right, let me go back to my presentation now.
Multiple times, and I will just pick 20 minutes and send you the link, and you can just accept it.
All right, so we're back to our presentation. All right. So that's, again, make sure you can export it to a PDF to send to the printer so that everything is exactly where it's supposed to be. So in presenting your poster, a couple of do's and don'ts,
Yes.
what it looks like to actually present. So you do want to prepare a very short summary of your poster. If someone comes up and says, tell me about your poster. So about 1 minute, just a rough overview, and then be prepared to answer questions about the research. You want to have a conversation and not give a lecture. So a brief overview of what you did, and then can I answer any questions for you? You might also want to prepare a 1-minute elevator speech about yourself and your research interests or areas. This is how you network at a poster session, is if they say, well, tell me a little bit about you, or you can say, this is my research, this is who I am, 1 minute. And it's never a bad idea to have a few business cards or contact cards available for networking. If you meet someone you'd like to invite to be on your dissertation committee, or maybe enlist as an expert consultant on your dissertation, you can usually go, if your school doesn't provide you any as part of your graduate experience, you can order some for less than $20 to have a few to hand out. It's just a great way to leave behind your contact information for someone else. What you don't want to do is begin a speech as someone who's trying to read your poster. If they're reading your poster, they want to get the information themselves. Wait until they ask you to tell you about it. Don't read your poster out loud to someone who is looking at it or asks you about it. So that's why I recommend having a 1 minute, tell me about your poster, something prepared, so that you don't stand and just read the words on your poster. And absolutely do not be afraid to say, I don't know the answer to your question because that was not part of my research. Nobody knows everything, and someone might see your research and think, oh, I wonder about this. And you can say, that's a really great question, and I don't know because I didn't look into that aspect of this. So I think we've come to the end of our presentation, and we're going to take some questions now. Thank you for your attention, and we'll answer some of the questions that are in this chat.
I think the first question that was asked was with the ideal font for the text.
That's a really great question. I don't know. No, there isn't a standardized font you should use. You should use something that's clean, that's easy to read, that's not squished together. I avoid fans because it just doesn't look professional. Avoid anything with lots of curly cues.
What are you listening? You disturb me.
I have a workshop.
See, this one we can hear. The person next to you can hear whatever you are.
Just make sure it's something simple and clean that's easy to read from a distance.
I'm Pakistani, that's why.
The next question I saw is, do you use the same headings as like your abstract that you submit, or can you change them on your poster? Like, can they be different from what you submitted for the abstract?
It was poster presentation. That how you prepare a
I
poster
think
presentation.
that
You know poster presentation. You're African people. You don't know nothing.
use for your presentation because that's what they accept. I mean, that's what you submitted and was accepted.
Poster presentation is like
someone
when you do your research
abstracting
and
works with
want
PPC, that would be my recommendation. I would try to keep to what's accepted.
You might find you need to add an extra heading if there's something that wasn't in your abstract but that you want to present, but you want to make sure you have at least what was in your abstract.
Another person asked, have you considered Mike Morrison's poster presentation research and what he calls better poster design?
There will be more work also.
I have not, but that's a great suggestion, and I'll check that out.
And they will, go through.
I think, okay, a couple more questions. I don't know if either of you can answer this, but will MNRS accept e-posters? And if there is a choice, which do you recommend?
So right now, MNRS is not doing e-posters. We in Carly, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We are in the PPC together. We are currently still doing the physical one. But that certainly is something that MNRS can consider in the future.
Okay. Do you have any tips for presenting electronic versions of your poster in general?
So, yes, I've presented electronic posters twice. I really think this is the direction we are headed. It's environmentally far more friendly than printing paper out. And then you're not, also it's easier to transport. You're not carrying a big poster tube on the plane. There's just a whole slew of reasons. The downside is there's a technological investment that has to be made on the part of the conference site to be able to host those digital posters. So with a digital poster, you really need to keep in mind size. You need to know in advance what is the size of the screen you're presenting. If you can find a comparably sized screen to try your poster out on first, so that you know how big is that font going to look and how does it look at that size. That's what I would suggest is make sure you're staying within that size boundary of what you're being given to present. A lot of times they're smaller than traditional paper posters, so you want to just keep that especially in mind. The other thing with those is the conferences I've presented at, there's much smaller poster presentation windows. So as you know, like at MNRS, the posters stay up for a fairly long amount of time. People can wander through at different times. Authors are only required to be there for certain time frames. With the digital posters, they're up for a very short window and that's it. They may cycle through like on a 5-minute rotation. And so it's really important to be concise and get your point across quickly if it's only up for 5 minutes at a time in cycling. So that's the other thing to keep in mind that's a little bit different.
Before we move on, Carly, I think Christine is here. She's an executive director for MNRS. She has a response on the e-poster. Christine, would you be able to speak to that?
Yeah, so we do allow e-posters. We do recommend e-posters. You have to have an in-person poster as well. It's not just We don't allow only
I
e-posters,
also
but it is a supplement. So people can look through we'll have an app with the conference, so they can look through the app and look through the e-poster gallery. And then it'll be great. It's a great tool for people to see what posters they want to visit before
so
they get
you
to the
did your
poster session.
master
So
in IT.
we do have that option. And you can also
What is
record
the
your
title of
presentation
your master
and include that in your e-poster upload. So all that information is sent to you
and
when we
it
send out the
was
schedule, you'll have that information.
course-based master
Thank you.
Thank
And I
you.
want to mention one more
you did
thing
a
too.
course,
I
right?
have invited past or the 2023 student awardees from the MNRS conference. So a few of them are also on the call. So if they want to speak up and answer any of these questions, they are more than welcome to jump in as well. Otherwise, I'm going to keep addressing the questions in the chat box.
So
But the
you
next question I
publish
saw was, are there
already
any
or
tips for
not?
presenting a postcard presentation?
I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with that. Dr.
I,
Lola, are you familiar with that?
okay,
Yes,
but
I've done
have
postcard
you any
presentation
publication?
before. Really, just again,
So you
very
will go
brief,
by bus?
but it is enjoyable. Actually, you
So
be
where?
there with several other, maybe about five,
Okay.
six other
Okay, then
presenters.
see you.
Christine
Okay, then
is
that's
here too. I think so. It's a group with similar theme, and you just basically have. I think it's just lesser fewer minutes compared with paper. So you get up and you speak. People initially will go around and watch your poster, and then you have a few minutes where you speak to your posters. So you speak. It's just not the same length of time that you will have at the podium. But the posters will be up for a period of time and people will go around and watch, and view. And then there will be a period where everybody goes up in turns to speak.
So if I'll go ahead and share.
I think we missed that part whenever you started sharing again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do
Okay.
that real quick. And okay, so everyone can see my blank PowerPoint. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what you're going to do is go to up here to design, and then you're going to go to slide size. And here you have to do a custom slide size. And what you want to do is just make sure that this matches. So if you're going to do 45 by 45, and then your title. That is teeny tiny font.
Recording in progress.
This is giving me trouble not wanting to get back on there for some reason. But that's where you would type title of poster. And then you could even keep it within the same border and just shrink this. Or the names. Sometimes I've noticed Microsoft doesn't like it if you have too many things open. So, and then you can center it within the box. And then if I need to move it around, I can just click on it and just kind of move it around wherever I need it to be. And if I want to change the background and the shape format, I can change my my shape fill right here. I can pick, fill it in with a different color. But this ensures that I'm at the right size. What you'll do is when you export this to a PDF, it'll also have those dimensions. And when you send it to the printer, whether that is somebody in your department or you're sending it to an outside printer, you'll tell them what size you need the poster printed. And then they'll take that PDF and make sure it's the right size. It's really the aspect ratios that are more important than the actual, what you set the sizing to be.
Awesome, thank you. The next question I saw is, will you share the slides of this presentation? Is there a way that we can make them available?
Yes.
Okay. I figured we could, I just don't know how we'll do it, but we'll figure that out. The next question, and if the student awardees, if you guys want to say if you did this or not, but do you recommend providing handouts to participants who view your poster? Has anyone done that?
Hi, this is Karen. I was a student presenter last year and happened to win for my evidence-based project. So happy to be here. This is really valuable information, even for just reminders for us and other ideas and tips. But I'm thinking as people are looking at being more green, that you do not need to have a handout. I do like the idea of folks having a business card, right? So you can connect with people. And then a lot of people are just using their, smartphones and taking pictures of people's posters, which then they have, either to connect with you or if they're really interested in your topic or things like that. So I would say save a tree, don't bring paper.
I would agree 100%. The other thing is so somebody who's viewing a poster, if there are handouts, there's almost this guilt that you have to take one, but then maybe you don't really want to carry around more paper. And so I think I agree completely with Karen that if you want to provide additional information, add another QR code as well, and then people can just take it that way electronically.
Awesome. The recording for this webinar, I don't want to say the wrong place, but it will be online. I don't want to say the wrong thing. It'll be on like the webinar.
I can help you out there, Carly, if you want me to.
You.
This is Stephanie. The recording will be located in the member portal of the MNRS website. So that's mnrs.org. You log into the member portal in the top right corner, and you'll see the webinar library there. You can also access it on the webinar page, which I'll drop in chat. Awesome. And then we can send out, we email out the slides to those that attended the webinar as well.
Thank you so much. I was struggling.
It's all good.
The next question is, how do you get a cloth poster? Is that on a canvas?
So there's been some discussion in the chat about cloth posters. They became popular when I was working on my PhD because you can fold them, put them in your suitcase. When you get to the hotel, every room has an iron, and you iron your poster out nice and flat and then go hang it. So it's much easier to travel with. They are also much more expensive to have printed. And so a lot of times for students, it can be cost prohibitive to do a cloth poster. However, you just have to find a print shop that is printing on cloth. I will also tell you, I have done several posters on vinyl, especially some of the community work I do. We want those posters to last for years, and we travel around with them and put them up and down. And so those vinyl posters are very, very sturdy. They tend to be less expensive at very large sizes than paper posters do from printers. Now, if you're printing through your university, you probably have more limits on the size of your poster based on the printers that you have access to. Our university, we do have within our department a large printer, but we are limited to the size of what it can. So that's the lowdown on another method of printing your poster.
And Kate has a good response also to that question. Kate Schaefer has a good on the chat. Something about postnerd.com.
Awesome. Oh, okay, here it is. Is there a trick or tip to resize the text box to fit on a poster, or do you just have to resize the font?
So you can resize the text box, but it won't change the font size. You have to do the font size separately. You can change font size either by highlighting it and then changing the font, or if you click on the text box edge to get the whole thing highlighted, then you can change the font in the whole box.
Okay. Do you need to purchase a QR generator, or is that like a free tool online?
No. Yes. So if you use things like if you have access to Qualtrics, it generates your QRs for you, and you just copy and paste them out into something else. And there are lots of free QR code generators.
Okay. I think so far all the questions in the chat have been addressed. So then I just have a couple of general questions if anybody, either student awardees or the presenters, if you could comment on.
And there's a, Carly, can I interrupt for a second, please? There's a question from Amanda Gruma that maybe Stephanie or Christine can address. Something about the MNRS 2023 app.
Oh, they did address that.
Yeah, we responded to it.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so the next question I wanted to ask was, what supplies should you bring with you on the day?
So they will tell you for conferences if they provide pins or not. MNRS does provide pins, so you need to bring your poster, your business cards, maybe have water with you if you think you might be talking a lot and want to sip in between as you're talking to people. But that's all. Some conferences may tell you you need to bring push pins with you. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you. And then another question, and I really would like to start with the student awardees if you could, is what are like some of the common questions that you guys were asked during like the 2023 poster presentation? If you can remember.
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for that, but I think some advice I would give is to practice, right? This is your research, your project, so you should know it inside and out. And if you've chosen the topic, you're going to be passionate about it. So that is going to come forward when you are talking with the many people that go through the poster presentation. And what else? I think sometimes people will ask like specific questions regarding how did you get your idea, and maybe, reviewing some things like sample size, or people want to know like if you had to do it again, what would you change, those types of things. But I think Dr. Adams said, it's always okay to say you don't know, right? And you don't have that answer, or that's a really good question, and give me your card and I'll get back to you.
I think another question that the audience viewers tend to ask is, where do you want to go from here? Where do you want to take this project? I've heard that a lot. So that might be one thing that you want to be ready for. What next? There's a comment in the chat box.
Yeah, this person recommended wearing comfortable shoes as you are standing for a while. That's good advice. Okay. I think I've addressed all the questions in the chat. Does anybody have any last questions or any advice from either presenters or the student awardees?
Well, yeah. So I was a student award winner in March. And to help me prepare for kind of my presentation, both in the virtual space and in person, I watched a lot of 3-minute thesis lectures. It's a really great way to summarize what you're talking about. And they're all over TikTok and Google if you want some really great examples of how to shorten something that you can probably talk about 20 minutes into 1 to 2 minutes.
Awesome. That's a really good suggestion. Okay, this person asked, will the conference be open to family members who may want to come by, or do they also have to register for the conference? think that might be a question for Stephanie, possibly.
It is, and I am giving that some thought. We do, like for the honorific award ceremony, allow family and that sort of thing to come. They just can't participate in any science or partake in any of the social events. So they might want to come at a time when you're not trying to talk to other folks about your poster too. So, all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then another person asked, is there a chance to get support for publication of unpublished works from a poster presentation?
I think there's always opportunity during your presentation to collaborate, to find networking opportunities, and to hit, to hit it with some of the viewers who may be interested in your work and become mentors, eventually. And that's one of the benefits of attending conferences, because you get to meet experts, you get to meet, people who know better than you and who may be of great value to your professional progress. So I don't know that officially that it's there, but I guess it depends on you as a person and how much connection can you get during that presentation of yours.
I think it also depends on the conference. There are conferences that if you are accepted as a podium speaker, you automatically have a publication accepted in their journal. That is it just depends on what they're offering. I have not seen it associated with posters. The other thing is you may have a journal editor who comes and sees your poster and says, when you write the paper, send it to me. I've had that happen as well. So that's always a fun experience.
My project was on related to educating school nurses. So and the Journal of School Nursing editor did a webinar on, okay, you presented your poster, how do you turn that poster into an article or get that manuscript published? So I would recommend going to some of your, like what journal you would like to publish in, and see if they also have other offerings that would kind of launch that poster into a manuscript that is publishable.
Okay. Do you guys have any advice on presenting an evidence-based project?
I think for evidence-based projects, it's just as, it's very similar to research. MNRS has acceptances for evidence-based projects as well as research projects. So I say just write it up as an abstract and submit it for MNRS or any other conferences that will accept evidence-based practice projects. But certainly MNRS, there's no discrimination whether it's EBP or research. So
that may be a situation where you're changing those headings. Your abstract might be a little bit different for an EBP project than it is for a research project. And your headings on your poster would then also be slightly different because of the nature of the way the project works. Results are usually, and analysis is presented slightly differently. The methods are presented slightly differently. You generally have a problem you're addressing that would need to be, clearly highlighted in your background. Maybe it's a separate section outside of the introduction background. Just think of what makes natural sense of what you want to really highlight of what this evidence-based project did and what it accomplished.
I believe too, MNRS has the specific guidelines for that EBP project. So you won't be going in blind. You will just be following, that advice. So there was actually more room on the poster because we did not have to provide references last year on the EBP project, which made me really nervous because oh no, but it gave me more room to talk about clinical implications and next steps.
We have a question on fee, right? Is that something that Stephanie or Kristen can address?
Yes, they have put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, they're quick. Are there any other questions or comments? I want to say a big, big thank you to the two presenters, Dr. Adams and Dr. Adiola. You guys were great.
It's a pleasure. If anybody has further questions, please feel free to send them through Carly or personally to either of us. We will be happy to take it further.
And thank you all for attending. We hope to see you at the annual conference next year.
Thank you. See you in February.
Thank you.